Let's go.
Carolina, Iowa, led by Caitlin Clark. They're the two #1 seeds in that Albany region. And then on the Portland side, USC, led by that freshman star, Juju Watkins. You got Texas. They round out the top 2 seeds. South Carolina, odds-on favorite at ESPN Bet to win it all at -140. All right, college game days, Andraya Carter. She joins us now. We're going to talk some more about the women's bracket. And Andraya, you got Iowa sitting there at that top seed, especially in that Albany 2 regional. What's the chances, Caitlin?
I want to point out right away, I don't know who this dude is. This dude in the blue suit. I don't watch men's coverage of anything because I think it's boring. And they all kind of sound the same and look the same. So I don't really watch it. And yeah, so I don't know. I know Andraya Carter. I have been following her forever. She used to play for Tennessee, and she's been an analyst for like a decade or something like that. And she's great. Great knowledge. Great commentary too.
Caitlin Clark ends what has been a remarkable season with a national title.
Okay, listen, first of all, thank you for having me. It is by far the most wonderful time of the year. I was asked earlier, is it realistic for Caitlin Clark to end with a national championship? And I would say the chances are low, to answer your question. And I wouldn't say it's realistic because if Caitlin Clark and this Iowa team go on to win a national championship, it would be magical. It would be magical if Caitlin Clark leads this team to a national championship. I know Caitlin Clark is even better than she was last year, but the road is harder this season and the competition is better this season. Listen, Caitlin Clark last year, she averaged 27 points. She had a phenomenal season. In the last 4 games of the tournament, she went off for 31, 41, 41, and then 30. She played above herself in that run to the national championship game. When she scored 30, they fell short. Caitlin Clark is capable of magical things. We could see her go for 30, for 40, for 40, but I'm telling you, they have to face potentially a Kansas State team that they split with during the regular season. Kansas State got them at home, and then Iowa got Kansas State in the Gulf Coast Showcase. That's going to be a tough game. They could face LSU, who has Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow. You just mentioned Juju Watkins, who can go toe-for-toe in scoring, and then...
It's going to be so much different because, like, their league, the Big Ten or whatever they're in, is like, it is competitive, but it's not as... they haven't seen that much competition, to be perfectly honest. That's like super tough, and she's a great player, but is her entire team able to support her in that greatness? I mean, you know, they got Martin and Polky, I forgot her last name, the only black girl on the team. Yeah, I mean, maybe they could do it, they could pull it out, but I think that they're going to get into a lot of foul trouble because they're not going to know how to defend these other teams.
South Carolina's on the other side. So I think the chances are low, but if she gets it, it would be magical, not realistic, but Caitlin's capable of magical things, so we'll see.
Well, you know, Andre, I know, listen, recently we've talked a lot about South Carolina, obviously LSU because they've won national championships, but people forget, past decade when we talked about on the women's side, UConn has been the behemoth. They're the #3 seed in that Portland 3 regional. Could we be sleeping on the Huskies because we talk so much about South Carolina, LSU, and Caitlin Clark in Iowa?
We definitely could be sleeping on UConn. Listen, one of the best things...
Could we be sleeping on UConn? No, absolutely not. Paige Beckers and Aaliyah Edwards are the only 2 players on that team that are actually good right now, and all the other players are like injured or something. They have like 8 players, and I think Aaliyah Edwards is injured right now. So no, they're not that good. And Paige just got back from an injury. So no, they're not the best team. I can't believe they even got a 3 seed. I think this is like one of the worst teams they've ever had, honestly. But, you know, it's just circumstance. Will they get far? I think they'll get to the Elite 8, and then I think they're going to get crushed, actually. I don't think they have the depth to go that far. I could be wrong. You know, stranger things have happened, but I don't think so. I think Notre Dame, there's so many other teams that are like so much stronger than they are as a whole. I just don't see them prospering. I really don't.
For UConn, is Paige Beckers has been on fire. Aaliyah Edwards on the inside. She didn't play during the Big East tournament, and that helped UConn a little bit because they had to figure out how to have success without her. Ice Brady ended up having really strong games, which could help them just as far as their confidence goes. My concern with UConn is after Aaliyah and Paige, they rely on a couple of freshmen, and freshmen being on that stage is really tough. They could face an Ohio State team that forces turnovers left and right. Ohio State's the team that knocked Connecticut out of the tournament last season. They forced 25 turnovers, so there's a lot to ask for Connecticut. My expectation for UConn is an Elite Eight. They could make a push to a Final Four. I'm also a little concerned about them in the Sweet 16. So the Elite Eight for Connecticut is my soft spot and the landing spot right now.
Same.
Okay, so I can't let you go without asking the question that everybody wants to know. Is there anything that's going to stop undefeated South Carolina?
Maybe.
Listen, no, unless it's South Carolina. Because South Carolina is the team who could beat themselves. We have seen South Carolina get off to slow starts this season. We have also seen South Carolina at times fall to the trap of bad shot selection. When they played at LSU, that first half, I thought they took quick shots. I thought they settled for jump shots. And that is them beating themselves. When South Carolina, we talked to Dawn Staley. Courtney Lyle interviewed Dawn Staley on our selection show yesterday. And she said that the standard is the standard. If South Carolina plays to their standard, I do not see a team that can beat them. If South Carolina falls short, and again, settling for jump shots, rushing on the offensive end, not playing through that 6'7" beast Camila Cardoso, then they could stumble. So I think South Carolina could be their biggest opponent.
I totally agree with that. They are a really good team, but then there are times when they're inconsistent, and that's very much like, oh, this is a team full of freshmen and sophomore. It's very obvious. They don't really have the maturity, but they're still playing amazing, so I have high hopes. I think they'll do fine, but stranger things have happened. The reffing does matter because last year, Aaliyah Boston fouled out of the game, and I think that was the reffing, really bad reffing that was happening, and they were calling lots of fouls in South Carolina when it's against them when they were playing the same way they played the entire year, and these new refs who had never reffed them decided to play it super tight, and so it wasn't really a game, and like that whole game against Iowa was like so disappointing because it wasn't toe to toe. It was more like South Carolina was limited, and then Iowa was able to go on their runs because South Carolina couldn't play the game that they play. So that's my opinion. So we'll see what happens coming up
when it comes to winning a national championship.
Yep, so great analysis from Andraya. I really agree with her and everything she said. And we actually, we're on the same page about a lot of things. After the season of watching the, how things were going, I think South Carolina is probably going to win. But if they don't win, I think it's going to be LSU, USC. Those probably are going to be it could be Notre Dame, but I don't think so. But we'll see. I'm really excited. Catch you in the next one.